Ramsey. I'm a grassroots organizer with Indivisible East Bay, co-hosting this Deadline for Democracy rally with Indivisible SF, and I'll be your MC tonight. So we are so thrilled that all of you came out to throw down for the freedom to vote. This is absolutely incredible. And we got a great evening for you. We have an incredible speaker lineup, and we'll have a little artivism with audience participation, which is optional, I promise. We'll have some music, and most importantly, we're going to have actions for you to take. We want you to start taking action as soon as the rally is over, and keep it up for a few weeks. But before we bring up our first speaker, shortest teaching of all time. You remember the 2020 election, right?
Right.
Yeah. We won that. We won back the White House, we kept the House, and in a squeaker in Georgia, we won the Senate. That's the good news. There's some bad news. A lot of people, the Jim Crow faction of lawmakers saw that. They did not like it at all. They did not like the power we were building, and they especially did not like the power that black and brown communities were building. So what did they do? They launched an all-out war on democracy. And so what we're seeing right now in 47 states are 380 bills that have either passed or in state legislatures designed to suppress the vote. And they're really designed to suppress the vote of black and brown voters. There's good news though. We have a solution. It's called the For the People Act. And the For the People Act, that bill is transformational. It is going to set up standards for all 50 states, equal ease of voting. We've got drop boxes, we've got enough drop boxes, early voting, vote by mail, automatic voter registration, same-day voter registration, you name it. We've got it to make voting easy. We're also going to have provisions that make it really hard for millionaires and billionaires to buy our elections the way they're buying them right now. And most importantly, potentially, we have provisions so that partisans cannot gerrymander districts. We want voters to choose their representatives. We don't want politicians choosing their voters. And that's what we're doing. There's some bad news again. This bill has already passed the House as H.R. 1. It's in the Senate as S1. But in the Senate, it's met a little roadblock called the filibuster. Boo. Sounds like you're all very educated about the filibuster. So you know that it is an outdated, racist loophole that allows the minority to oppress the will of the majority. And this bill, it's in the Senate, but it didn't even get to the floor for debate. In late June, Majority Leader Schumer tried to bring it to the floor, couldn't even get it to the floor for a debate. And that's because the Republicans filibustered it. But, again, some more good news. I know this is a wild ride, but we can overcome the filibuster with just 51 votes. That's all we need. We can abolish it, which is the right thing to do, or we could amend it so that we can pass S1. Guess how many votes we have in the Senate? 51! That is right. We can do this. So we are going to get this bill passed. The Senate needs to do it, and what we're going to do is pressure them to do it because they won't do it unless we put the pressure on. So we have some demands. All right. Oh, and
turn on the mic.
Oh, please.
Hold on. This is gonna help.
You may have a little battery issue. I'll wait for this. Oh, there we go. All right, so we're back on. This is called Deadline for Democracy for a reason. We need to pass the For the People Act before Congress leaves for its August recess. We need that to happen because otherwise the legislative calendar will just overtake them, and we also need the anti-gerrymandering provisions in place in time for the 2022 elections. So we got a couple weeks, y'all. We got to get it together, and here are our demands. Senator Padilla, we thank you for your bold stance on abolishing the filibuster and doing whatever it takes to pass the For the People Act. We call on you to keep using your power to talk to every other Democratic senator on the fence about amending the filibuster. Get in the press as much as you can to push the narrative that this is a bill with strong bipartisan support from voters, that the problem isn't the Democrats, it's the senators who want to reduce access to the vote. Senator Feinstein, slightly different story. We ask you to recognize that democracy is indeed in jeopardy, and that you have a choice. It's between the filibuster and democracy. We know you're a champion of the For the People Act, so we call on you to become a champion of addressing the filibuster so we can pass it. In conclusion, our leaders must use their majority, eliminate or amend the filibuster, and pass the For the People Act to ensure that all of us, no matter our color or zip code, can freely cast our ballots, have our voices heard, and elect leaders who deliver on our priorities, from real access to health care, to a $15 minimum wage, to universal child care, to free public college, to a green economy, and more.
Make that a $30 minimum wage.
Does that sound like the future you want?
Yeah.
Does that sound like something you're ready to fight for?
Hoorah!
All right. Tell me what democracy looks like.
This is what democracy looks like.
Tell me what democracy looks like.
This is what democracy looks like.
Tell me what democracy looks like.
This is what democracy looks like.
All right, this is amazing, you guys. So let's bring up our first speaker, which is, I believe, is it Aisha? All right. Yeah. Aisha, come on up. This is Aisha Wahab. She's the mayor pro tempore and a city council member of Hayward. She ran for Hayward City Council in 2018 to upend the status quo. Thank you. And amplify the voices of renters, seniors, immigrants, and women. She won her race and became the first Afghan-American woman elected to public office in the United States. She is running right now for state senate so that she can advocate at the state level for investments in public education, a robust social safety net, and policies that support small businesses. She wants the California dream to be accessible to all of us.
I can speak loudly if that's
Go ahead.
Hi guys. I really want to thank all of you guys for being here, and primarily just even organizing this. You know, we haven't had a lot of these particular types of organizing events in a while, and it's incredibly important. And I really want to thank Nancy for highlighting the fact that as an Afghan American, I was born in New York City, very lucky to be born there, and my parents came here as asylum seekers, and it's a story of many. They were undocumented, seeking political asylum, escaping the war in Afghanistan. And my sister was not born in this country, and I see the privileges that I, by birthright, get over a lot of other people. And I traveled to Afghanistan in roughly, I want to say 2014, and I spent a month there when they did the transition of power between Karzai and Ghani. And I will say that it makes you appreciate the United States of America and its democracy so much more. And I will tell you why. As a born American, when you travel abroad, you are not allowed to use your voice. Whether you are a woman, an ethnic minority, or a person that has a different opinion. Dissent is not tolerated in other countries. Yet, we have that privilege here in the United States. And I specifically want to highlight that for the right to protect our rights. we see time and time again in the last 4 years of Trump that our rights were being dwindled away. They were chipping away left and right. And it's not just California. It's in states that have problems themselves, right? We saw that in the South. We saw that in many, many other states. People do not have clean drinking water. People are living below the poverty line in the United States of America. And this is one of the reasons why. Thank you. This is why it's incredibly important to speak up. And what you guys are doing here today, you guys are the true freedom fighters. And every single one of you guys that can write a letter, call your representative, email somebody, and honestly, post more of these. That is how we get things done. Because when people are in the streets, that's when people in the chamber listen. And then they're afraid. I will say, as an elected official, people in elected office are genuinely afraid of this. They are genuinely afraid of people coming together. They are afraid of people uniting. And look at yourselves, left and right. All come from different backgrounds, different ages, different ethnicities, different income levels, coming together to protect each other. And that is what we are fighting for. So I will say, it is time to call your representative and pass the For the People Act. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Aisha. Is this working? Okay, good. All right. Next we have Queen Jackson, who's making her way up here. She comes from a family of activists who have tirelessly worked for equal rights, women's rights, seniors, and fair treatment of the Black community. She carries on that tradition, organizing to take stands against voter suppression, racism, and unfair treatment of our democracy is secure.
Many people here. This is amazing. Thank you all again for having me here this evening. And I tell you, I just got off a meeting with Community Change Action, did a little skit on the myth and the truth about the filibuster. Now I heard you all clapping about, or actually booing about the filibuster, but who knows how the filibuster came to be? Does anybody know? It's not in our Constitution. It was actually an accident. Someone made the statement, actually filibuster means talking it to death. It means to talk something to death. So someone stood in front of the Senate back in the 1800s and they kept talking and talking and talking, and then somebody said, gee, he's filibustering that thing, which comes from a Greek word, by the way. Then, later on, someone said, I'm really upset that he keeps filibustering these ideas. Someone heard it, and it caught on, and is now a permanent part of the Senate language. However, the filibuster has become not what it was, but it's become something of an obstructionist. In the beginning, you had to stand there and talk and talk and talk. You couldn't stop talking until you actually ran out the time for that discussion. If you couldn't continue to talk, someone in your constituency had to get up and talk after you, and your constituency had to be in the chamber. Then a few years ago, Mr. McConnell said, hey, we're going to change that rule. We're going to change that, so all you have to do is say, hey, I filibustered that, then you can all get up and walk out and go have dinner. There was no discussion, there was no talking. It became too easy. And I agree. We need Senator Feinstein to come on board with either abolishing the filibuster or changing the rules so that we can at least get the For the People's Act and the John Lewis Voting Rights Act and DC statehood passed. never going to have 60 votes in the Senate. Come on now.
No, never.
We're never going to get 60 votes on anything because they're never going to fully agree like that. We need to lower the threshold, so maybe to 47 votes. Maybe we can get 7 people from the other side to come on board with you. Another thing that we need to do is we need to, I just lost my train of thought. We need to lower the threshold, and we also need to pass our legislature on simple majority. Okay. Okay. So Senator Warren has his cute little skit, and he says, Aaron Burr was the one who came up with the idea of I'm a visual person, everyone. I need to see this. Okay, so.
Hello? Hello? How's it out there? Can you hear me? Okay, can you hear that?
Okay, first of all, the bill is brought to the floor. We have a debate. Okay? In the back to the debate, we don't have a vote.
Eat the mic.
Turn it up a little more.
Close to your mouth.
Okay. The bill is brought to the floor. We have a debate. In the debate, we have a vote. But here's the problem. If we don't get 60 votes to end the debate, the bill never comes to the floor for a vote. Mitch McConnell has become a genius at making sure a bill that his donors don't like never comes to the floor. Can you imagine our House of Representatives passed over 400 bills that were sitting on his desk, never even come to the floor when Trump was beaten by Joe Biden? That's ridiculous. Ladies and gentlemen, this is our government. It's for the people, by the people. Okay? And we can't sit here and allow our senators to continuously manipulate and walk all over us while they do business for the top 1/10 of the 1% that's the richest people in this country.
Right. Yeah.
So, in short, what I'm trying to say to you is we have to either kill the filibuster, get rid of it altogether, change the rules so we can pass these 2 bills, and then after we pass these 2 bills, don't stop there, keep working until we put that sucker in the bed and it never comes back again.
Thank you, Queen. All right. Next up, Bruce Hartford. In the 1960s, Bruce Hartford was a civil rights worker in California, Alabama, and Mississippi. He was a field organizer for Dr. Martin Luther King in both Selma, Alabama, and Grenada, Mississippi, and he is a veteran of the Selma to Montgomery and Meredith, Mississippi marches. Today, he is an active member of Indivisible SF, web spinner for the Civil Rights Movement Archive, a member of Bay Area Veterans of the Civil Rights Movement, and on the board of the Snake Legacy Project. Welcome, Bruce.
Can you hear me? The battle for voting rights. We didn't even have these things in Selma. The battle for voting rights neither began
nor ended in Selma, Alabama in 1965. At the time our nation was founded, only white men who owned property could vote. Women, 50% of the population, were denied the vote. No slaves, no freedmen, no Native Americans, no renters, no people who lived at their workplace, as was common in those times. None of them could vote. In many states, no Catholics and no Jews were allowed to vote. In the election of 1800, it's estimated that less than 15% of the American people were eligible to vote. Most of you would not have been allowed to vote when this nation was founded. For 200 years, we Americans have fought to expand the ballot. We ended the poll tax. We ended property qualifications. Women fought and endured for 75 years to win suffrage. The Civil Rights Movement fought for and won voting rights for people of color. On the last day of the march from Selma to Montgomery, I found myself walking next to Rosa Parks. As we turned up Dexter Avenue, she touched my arm and pointed to a bus stop. "That's where I was arrested," she quietly told me. Think about that. On a dark, dreary December evening in 1955, she had taken a lonely stand for freedom. Now, on a crisp March day 10 years later in 1965, she was marching past that spot with 30,000 fellow freedom fighters. Later that day, a phalanx of heavily armed state troopers prevented us from reaching the Alabama Capitol steps. The same steps that Jefferson Davis stood on 100 years earlier when he was sworn in as the slave state confederacy's first and last president. They wouldn't let us use a speaker's platform. So Dr. King stood on a flatbed truck to tell us that the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. But it does so only so long as people like Rosa Parks and you people here today bend it so. Defending the right to vote has always been a long, hard, bitter fight. Thomas Paine once observed that tyranny, like hell, is not easily conquered. So we've had, and we will continue to have, disappointments, setbacks, and outright defeats. But we'll also have victories. Now you've all seen the photos and films of the savage attack against voting rights marchers on the Edmund Pettus Bridge in Selma, Alabama in 1965. That important event is now famous as Bloody Sunday. But something equally important occurred a few hours later in Selma that few people living today know about. Two of the marchers on the bridge were Cheyenne Webb and Rachel West. They were 8 years old. Dr. King called them his littlest freedom fighters. If you search the web, you can see photos of them sitting in his lap before he spoke at Brown Chapel. Years later, they wrote a book titled Selma, Lord Selma. In that book, Cheyenne described the little-known event My eyes were swollen and burning from the tear gas. I sat with Rachel up toward the front. We were just sitting there crying, listening to the others cry. Some were even moaning and wailing. It was an awful thing. It was like we were at our own funeral. But then later in the night, maybe 9:30 or 10, I don't know for sure, somebody there started humming. I think they were moaning, and it just went into the humming of a freedom song. It was real low, but some of the children began humming along, slow and soft. It was like a funeral sound, a dirge. At first I didn't even know what the song was. It was then I recognized it. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me round. I never heard it or hummed it that way before. It started to catch on, and people began to pick it up. Then it started to swell, the humming. Then we began singing the words. We sang, ain't gonna let George Wallace turn me around. Ain't gonna let no horses turn me around. Ain't gonna let no tear gas. Ain't gonna let nobody turn us around. Nobody. We was singing and telling the world that we had not been whipped. I think we all realized it at the same time, that we had won something that day because people were standing up and singing like I'd never heard them sing before. When that singing started, we grew stronger. Each one of us said to ourselves that we could go back out there and face the tear gas, face the horses, face whatever Sheriff Jim Clark could throw at us. So I tell you today that yes, Dr. King was right. The arc of the moral universe does bend towards justice, but only so long as people like you bend it. Thank you.
Yeah, it only bends if we do it, and that's going to be the theme for tonight, that we are going to win this fight, but only if all of you, all of us across the country, show up for democracy. All right, so next we have Janani Ramachandran. She's a social justice attorney and community activist, currently serving on the California Commission on Asian and Pacific Islander American Affairs. She's running for state assembly, just won one of the top 2 spots in the June primary. She believes that California needs bold solutions now, starting with stronger statewide tenant protections, a $22 an hour living wage, and qualified immunity for police who cause harm, investment into community alternative justice programs, a Green New Deal with a racial equity lens, and universal health care.
Thank you. Can everyone hear me okay? How are people feeling about the state of our democracy right now? Is everyone perfectly happy? No, I'm pissed off, just like all of you, and that is why I am running for California State Assembly. One of the key reasons I decided to run for this seat were the thousands of communities that are left out of our political process. The people who don't have a seat at the table. And why don't they have a seat at the table? The undue influence of corporations buying our elections. So it's time to claim that seat at the table for so many of us and so many of our people that did not have the right to vote, for so many people who fought for decades, who put their lives on the line so we could have the right to vote. I am fighting to demand, not ask for, but demand our seat at the table back. And I'm excited for this energy. I'm excited to fight for the people act alongside each and every one of you. Because voter suppression, disenfranchisement of voters, disenfranchisement of communities of color is real. It's real right here in Oakland. It's real right here in the 18th Assembly District. It's real right here in California and, of course, across the country. Last week, there was a special election for California State Assembly. Only 21% of registered voters were able to turn out. there are so many reasons that our democracy is flawed, but part of it is that we let Democrats get away with the laws. We let the institutions that enable the Democrats get away with violating our anti-corruption laws, get away with both legal and illegal forms of corruption, and we give them a pass because they have the label as a Democrat. That is unacceptable to me. We need to call out. We need to call out every act of anti-corruption when we see it. We need to call out every undue influence of corporations in our elections and not be okay just because you call yourself a Democrat. This system is flawed, regardless of whether you are a Democrat or a Republican. We need to continue to call every single instance out. And it's not good enough to say you care about healthcare being a human right or housing being a human right if you are allowing corporations that block progressive reform to making these issues a human right and allowing them to line your campaign pockets. It's not okay for Democrats to say, yes, climate change is real, but we're going to allow oil and gas companies to fund our elections. It's not acceptable for Democrats to say, hashtag Black Lives Matter. Yes, we believe police brutality is wrong, but we're going to allow the police unions to put out expenditures for our campaign secretly and try to pretend the public's not going to find out. So I am proud to be a corporate-free candidate in this election. And I am proud and I have hope because of all of you, because of energy, because of the spaces like this that make me believe, make me know that people power can defeat the power of corporations. We have the power of grassroots organizing, the power of movements like this, the power of our passion, the power to pressure our federal officials to pass the For the People Act, to hold our leaders accountable, to hold them to the same standards we do all of our other elected officials. We have the ability to demand accountability, transparency, and justice at the local level, at the state level, and at the federal level. Thank you for being here today. Thank you for inviting me to be here. I am proud to be Indivisible East Bay's endorsed candidate in this race. And I invite you to use the power of your vote on August 31st. Yes. Let's fight back against corporations. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Janani. And I love the message about justice. And as we know, love is what justice is what love looks like in public. And I want to use one of my favorite cheers I learned from Black Voters Matter. When I say love, you say power. Love. Power. Love. Power. When I say love, you say power. Love. Power. Love. Power. That's how we're going to get it done, people. We're going to love each other. We're going to love each other so hard that we're going to make sure everybody has a voice in this country. And I want to bring up Elisha Crader. She's from Working Families Party. She's a local organizer born and raised in the Bay Area. She's currently the Northern California organizer with the Working Families Party, where she's fighting to build a truly progressive political party in California that is led by people of color and works to serve the many, not the few. Prior to organizing with WFP, Elisha worked in eviction defense, serving tenants across Alameda County, and is a housing justice advocate. Outside of WFP, she currently organizes in her community with the Hayward Community Coalition, a grassroots organization leading the effort in Hayward to defund the police and fund community resources.
Can you hear me? Yes. My name is Elisha Crader. I'm an organizer with the Working Families Party, and I'm going to read from my phone. So if you're unfamiliar with the Working Families Party, we're a national political party that works to serve and represent the many, not the few. We're building our own party on top of a two-party system in the United States, and it is working. We organize outside of the two parties, and then we recruit and train people-powered candidates up and down the ballot and run them to win. And we're currently forming a Bay Area chapter as well. WFP formed because the richest people on earth and the political insiders who serve them have rigged the rules of our economy and our democracy to grab up the wealth and power for themselves. The Working Families Party is made up of regular people coming together across our differences to make a better future for us all. We're a multiracial party that fights for workers over bosses, people over the powerful, and we organize for a country which realizes the promise, unrealized in our history, of freedom and equality for all. It's exactly these values of the Working Families Party that drives me to organize with them for the sake of our communities, and these same values are what have brought me here today to speak out in support of the For the People Act. What we're seeing in DC is not new, it's not surprising, and it's a continuation of a long history in this country of ruthlessly fighting for and defending white supremacy. The bar is low if we're organizing for basic voter rights in a country that uses quote-unquote democracy as an excuse to send military overseas and murder innocent people. Yet here we are, and we must be heard. We must continue fighting. We need our senators to hear us and to know that we are watching them. We need to call and write them, mobilize our communities, and take action just like this. We cannot continue to let our representatives prioritize their private interests over the public good. We need the For the People Act to protect our interests and make real progress in our communities, and they know that. They know that we do not want to be exploited for our labor any longer, that we no longer believe that these systems are working for us, and they know that one of the avenues that we have to make a difference is through voting, and the For the People Act strengthens that for us. They know this. I'm here speaking today because I simply believe that everyone deserves the right to vote and deserves easy access to voting. Republicans put obstacle after obstacle in the way of voters in favor of white supremacy to continue disenfranchising Black, brown, indigenous, and immigrant communities, as well as working people like many of us and our families. I believe that those who have been through the criminal justice system deserve the right to vote. Those who speak another language and have difficulty registering to vote deserve a right to vote. I hope that we will all leave here today and send one email or leave one voicemail for our senators to fight for the basic rights for us and for those who couldn't be here today because they are incarcerated, working, caring for their family, or do not feel safe in political spaces. Before I go, I want to say thank you to all of the organizers that put this event together today and to all of you who came out to make your voices heard. I also want to invite you all to get plugged in to our statewide and Bay Area effort to build real progressive political power, training and running real grassroots candidates with the Working Families Party. So if you're interested, you all can join the movement by taking out your phone, waiting for the movement, and texting the letter CAWFP to the phone number 30403.
What's that again?
You can text CAWFP to the phone number 30403. Thank you, everyone.
She represents the entire city of Oakland as its council member at large and vice mayor. She has served Oakland as a citywide elected official for 12 years, that's dedication, working for a more vibrant and equitable city where all of us can thrive, enhancing economic opportunity and supporting a new vision of public safety. Welcome, Rebecca.
So when I say good evening, you throw your hands up in the air and you say good evening. Good evening. Good evening. End voter suppression. End voter suppression. End voter suppression. End voter suppression. End this. End voter suppression. And it's back. By the way, I did bring the extra megaphone just in case. Because you always have to be prepared to fight for our democracy. My name is Rebecca Kaplan, and I'm honored to serve as the Vice Mayor of Oakland and Council Member at Large representing the entire city. And thank you. And thank you for having this important rally right here in Oakland to defend our democracy. We know that the fight for our democracy does not end. It did not end with the Voting Rights Act, which we now have to fight for all over again. Against this insane Supreme Court that doesn't believe in the right to vote. And it did not end when people were beaten by police and had dogs sicked on them fighting for the right to vote. every generation, we need to lift up this fight, because the enemies of democracy do not stop. And that is one of the lessons that we need to be awakened to right now, and talk to our friends and neighbors and colleagues and members of Congress about right now, that we cannot rest on the work of those who came before us. We cannot rest on the work of those who fought in the 60s for the Voting Rights Act. Yes. We cannot rest on those who gave their lives fighting to register voters. We need to continue the fight, to continue to uplift justice, to continue to uplift democracy. Let us remember that Goodman and Cheney and Schwerner gave their lives registering people to vote. And this fight going on right now in America against democracy is not new. Let us not forget also the Brooks Brothers riot of the Bush v. Gore election. And I think that that is part of what emboldened the people who are acting now. I think Trump was jealous. He wanted his own Brooks Brothers riot, except much worse and much more violent. But in 2000, the election results were stolen in plain day on camera. And that sent a message that people could get away with undermining our democracy in that way. And we went through 8 years of war and climate devastation that we didn't have to go through if the 2000 election hadn't been stolen. And so that created a template for an entire generation of right-wing Republican anti-democracy people who were emboldened by that and are still to this day fighting to subvert our democracy. And we know that democracy does not happen by itself. We have to fight for the right to vote. We have to help people register to vote. We have to continue to fight against voter suppression. And we have to pass the For the People Act. We have to pass the For the People Act. And so to our senators, or maybe even just a special message to the one of our senators who maybe hasn't taken a position yet. So, Dianne Feinstein, please stand for democracy. Do not let the filibuster, which itself is a method to subvert democracy. Right? Let's be clear. The filibuster is always subverting democracy, no matter what the vote is about, because the filibuster says majority rule doesn't apply. But to use the filibuster, which itself is about subverting democracy, to block laws so as to make it easier to subvert democracy, is doubly sick and twisted. So please, Dianne Feinstein, stand up for the people, stand up for democracy, work with us to pass the For the People Act, and do not let the filibuster stop us. And for those who have said that the filibuster is tradition, denying people the right to vote was also tradition. And it was a wrong and racist and disgusting tradition that needs to be ended. And so thank you so much to all of you for coming out today, for fighting the good fight, for letting your voices be heard, for calling our senators and telling them to pass the For the People Act, and let us continue to work together to end voter suppression and defend our democracy. Thank you so much. Good evening.
When I say for the, you say people. For the people. For the people. When I say for the, you say people. For the people. For the people. Woo-hoo! All right, thank you. So, those are the amazing speakers. Thank you so much to all of you for giving your heart and soul. And since we're here in California, and not only that, we're here in the Bay Area, we are going to do a visioning exercise. Because that's what we do here. We need to be able to imagine our future, the beautiful future that we want to bring it about in order to really fight for it. And right now, our country is at a crossroads. We are looking at two very different futures. One with the For the People Act and one without the For the People Act. And coming up onto the stage here are the flash forward players. If the down one timeline, if the For the People Act is not passed, I gotta tell you, it's looking pretty grim. We are not going to be able to put a brake on all of those voter suppression bills that are rolling out across the country and specifically targeted at black and brown communities. And perhaps the most dangerous thing is the gerrymandering. Republicans will not draw new district lines. They're going to lock in their advantage for at least 10 years and use those 10 years to lock in more advantage. And 1,000 political scientists called out this extreme gerrymandering, and here's what they say, this is a quote, that it threatens to solidify minority rule in state legislatures and Congress. If this happens, America will no longer be a democracy. But here's the amazing thing. Passing the For the People Act is just not the absence of bad stuff, it's the presence of really good stuff. We are going to be able to redress harms to communities of color that have been targeted by voter suppression for hundreds of years. And the bill will be able to make it so that millionaires and billionaires don't buy our elections. And so if you want to be in the fight to address these harms against black and brown voters, you're in the fight for democracy, you're in the fight for racial justice. And it's up to us to bring about the bright timeline. All of you here. And so you've been hearing people talk about actions. I want to get everybody calling your senators every day, writing letters to the editor, calling in your cousins, talking to your families, everybody in other states. And there's an action table over there. And now you see there are 3, 4-ish people. They're going to be circulating in the crowd. They're going to hand you some action packs. So you are going to fill out some postcards, check off some boxes for the actions you're going to take, and then you can drop them off, and we will send them to your future selves. So, and there's also some chocolate. So, you know, we've got actions and chocolate. So I'm going to hand it over to our flash forward players, and let's see what it looks like.
July 29, 2021. With no agreement on filibuster reform, transformative voting bill fails in the Senate.
November 8, 2022. GOP reaps reward of gerrymandering, sweeps midterms despite winning a minority of voters. February 5th, 2023. Congress passes deeply unpopular tax bill, corporations and the wealthy to pay record low.
March 20th, 2023. Filibuster kills Green New Deal in the Senate, spelling disaster for climate and job growth.
November 6, 2024. Massive voter roll purge leads to record low turnout among communities of color.
February 15th, 2025, GOP deals blow to progressive agenda as anti-poverty bill fails in the House.
July 29th, 2021. Congress sides with democracy. For the People Act heads to President's desk. November 8th, 2022. With increased access to voting, record turnout boosts progressive coalition in Congress.
February 5th, 2023. Congress paves way to closing wealth gap, passes tax bill with 70% popular support.
March 20th, 2023. Congress passes Green New Deal, breaking new ground on progress for jobs and climate.
November 6, 2024, with historic turnout in 2024, voters elect a Congress that looks like America.
February 15th, 2025. In win for families, Congress passes anti-poverty bill centering child well-being and racial justice.
invite you to come up and share your visions of our bright future.
So this is going to be one where everybody is able to vote, where everyone is assured that their vote will be counted, and where the majority decides the vote. It's not a super majority where it's the majority that decides the vote. And the only thing that we need to get there is for Democrats to realize that they have the power right now to make that happen. Right now. It only takes 51 votes in the Senate to end the gerrymandering. That's all it takes. So we can say that the Republicans are making them do it, but it's not true. The Democrats themselves need to get their act together and as a complete unit do that. And if they do, we'll actually have a country where people can vote, where their votes are counted, and where the majority decision is real. And Woody Guthrie used to have something scrawled on his guitar. It said, this machine kills fascists, right? So when we say we want to protect democracy, let's say what we're protecting it against, it's authoritarianism. It's being an authoritarian state or a fascist state. There is a machine or a tool that we can use that can defend us and protect us against fascism. And that's a hand-marked paper ballot. Thanks.
Hand-marked paper ballots for all.
My vision for the future is that the lines at the polling place on election day in black and brown communities are as short as the lines in the white suburban communities.
Anyone else?
Hi, I'm from DSA Minsk. Like you guys know what the Democratic Socialist of America is? In general, I've been a supporter of Speak out. Got into president. Can you hear me now?
Getting the megaphone. Hi.
Can y'all hear me? Since Joe Biden got elected, Democratic Socialists of America, as the largest socialist organization in the United States, has been pushing for the For the People Act since it was proposed. We've also formed many coalitions with other organizations, like Black Socialists of America, CPUSA, Workers' World Party, the Democratic Party of San Mateo, and the Party for Socialism and Liberation. Bottom line, we can't do this alone. We need to make coalitions with other organizations, like Workers' World, and the Sunrise Movement, and Black Lives Matter, and Black Socialists of America, and the Working Families Party. Hopefully, we can all form together and create a people's party that works for the working class and not the billionaires. Research has constantly showed us that Medicare for All polls at over 75%. This act that we are proposing now stands at over 60%. Universal child care stands at over 67%. And pretty much every single progressive reform that we as Democratic Socialists propose is extremely popular. The only reason why they don't pass is that the GOP wants a fascist oligarchy to take over the United States. So a message to you, Joe Biden, look into the camera, as you always like to do during the debates. A message to you, Joe Biden. The Republicans are not your friends. They are your enemies. And if Joe Manchin still doesn't want to pass what the progressive movement wants to pass, you need to primary him with a DSA candidate or a Working Families Party candidate to scare the Democrats into doing what happened in Nevada, where the Democratic Socialists of America took over the entire Democratic Party of Nevada. If that can happen on a state level, it can happen on a national level. FDR did it in the 30s. We can do it now.
One more Green New Deal.
Mic check, 1, 2, 1, 2. All right, so I just want to go ahead and put in a plug for the Green New Deal champion after the fireworks display. All right, so we have a major election happening in Ohio District 11. Does anybody know Nina Turner? Yeah! Hello, somebody! Hello, somebody! We need her to be in office, and we want her to pass the Green New Deal. We need assembly members like Janani to be in the office, right? She needs to be an assembly member, and the more we get Green New Deal champions as assembly members, we can go ahead and make that a reality. Also, what about Charles Booker? Does anyone know Charles Booker? Yeah! Yes, we need him in the Senate. Get rid of Rand Paul. Right? What is Rand Paul doing for us? Nothing! Zilch! Nada! He's not doing anything for Kentucky. He's not doing anything for the nation, right? So what happens in Kentucky affects us all, right? It's like a cancer. It just grows and it affects us all. We're all affected. Also, one more. Attica Scott. We need Attica Scott for District 3 in Kentucky. She's a Green New Deal champion. If you're a Sunrise member, raise your hand. Holla if you're a Sunrise. Woo! We need to go ahead and network like no other, right? We need to go ahead and not just make this a local thing. It has to be a nationwide thing if we're serious about this, okay? So, don't forget, Attica Scott, get out the vote for Janani. Let's give it up for Janani. Hey, I heard on the radio that there was a low voter turnout during the primary. We gotta beef that up. We need to beef it up if we're serious about it, right? Don't forget Attica Scott, and don't forget Charles Booker. Thank you very much.
Hello, everybody. Thank you. My name's Annie. I'll be super quick. Got a question for you. Remember, a little over a year ago, the George Floyd protest? Think everybody does? All right. Remember the DA? Some people probably do. And the DA decides if people get prosecuted. If a cop fucks up, DA can prosecute him. I'm from Fremont. I know, suburbs, I know. But in Fremont, a few years ago, a police officer shot through the window of a moving car, killed a pregnant teenager. Pretty fucked up. Our DA didn't prosecute him. Those cops still out there being cops. I don't even know who the fuck they are. So, your current DA, name's Nancy O'Malley, and the next DA's election is in 2022. Yeah, I don't like Nancy O'Malley. You like Nancy O'Malley? What I thought. Alright, and some good news for you. Nancy O'Malley ain't running for DA in 2022. Yup. Pamela Price is running for DA in 2022. Alright? Yeah, and Pamela Price done a whole fuck ton of amazing things, but one of my favorites, she's one of the only black women to ever argue in front of the Supreme Court. And she won. Yeah, Pamela Price won. Case called Amtrak v. Morgan. Google it if you feel so inclined. Pamela Price as a social justice attorney, and in 2022, if you want real criminal justice reform, not more of the same, not more cops who shoot pregnant teenagers still being cops, I urge you, support Pamela Price. Thank you.
you've heard the calls to action. Here's the game plan. Number one, we mobilize like never before. I want to see all of you calling your senators, writing letters to the editor, doing everything. Head on over to the action table to find out what you can do. You can find out about all our partners we've been working with, getting involved with them. We are not going to let up. That is step one of the game plan. Step two is the Senate listens to us. They won't have a choice because we're going to be like a dog with a bone. And step three, we pass the For the People Act. So this moment is so critical, and history has its eyes on us. It reminds me of what Kamala Harris, now our VP, said at the Democratic National Convention. Years from now, this moment will have passed, and our children and our grandchildren will look us in the eyes and ask us, where were you when the stakes were so high? They will ask us, what was it like? And we will tell them. We will tell them not just how we felt, we will tell them what we did. So my question to you is, what do you want to tell them that you did? Do you want to tell them that you fought like hell? Are you ready to mobilize? Are you ready to throw down for the freedom to vote? Are you ready to make history? Tell me what democracy looks like. This is what democracy looks like. Tell me what democracy looks like. This is what democracy looks like. Tell me what democracy looks like. This is what democracy looks like. All right, this is what democracy looks like. It also looks like chocolate and music. And so we have some movement music by Elisa Friedman, who's going to come on up, and somebody's going to help her with mics. And we're going to pray to the gods that these mics work for her whole beautiful song. Do we think that the Republicans were in charge of the sound system? That's my question.
Hey everybody, my name is Elisha Friedman, and I've got some participation from you guys. The first song I'm going to play is one that I wrote, and it's called Not Gonna Let You Go. And what I want you to think about is all the things that you are not willing to let go of. Obviously, the For the People Act, but other things, and there will be an opportunity at the end for you to yell those out. So, again, it's called Not Gonna Let You Go. California's burning like she haze by the door. Ranches and houses all tinder box hills. Loaded the poodles and photos and hills. And still, we have a lot to lose right now. Turns out there are no guarantees. Channel all your heartbreak and your anger as you speak. It's the land that let her know we're not gonna let you go. Being with her son to keep them both from being killed. Will she find asylum in that city on a hill? Children in cages, this isn't a game. right, you guys. This next song is written by a DC singer-songwriter by the name of Chris Matthews. It's on her new Changemakers album, which I encourage all of you to go check out and buy and support her. That's Chris, C-R-Y-S, in case you're looking for it. This song is called Call Them In. And I better take you to the right thing. It's inspired by John Lewis, and oh, this one also I want participation. So the pre-chorus goes like this. It goes, this is what revolution looks like. Can you guys do that with me?
Yes.
This is what revolution looks like. And then there's another line right after that that I'd also like you guys, it's very appropriate for all of you, to sing. Gotta get in and stay in this fight. Let's try that again. You gotta get in and stay in this fight. All right, let's do it together, and then you'll know when it comes on, and you can always, yeah. All right, so it's one more time. This is what revolution looks like. You gotta get in and stay in this fight. Okay, there we go. The battle lines are drawn, and once again, somebody's saying, wait, be patient. If they knew how long it would be before all people could truly hear freedom ring, I wonder which end of that moral arc would they choose. I wonder if more would have walked in his shoes. Here we go, everybody. This is what revolution looks like. Gotta get in and stay in this fight. You've got to find a way to get in the way. Speak up, speak out every day. Freedom riders or letter writers, do what you can to shine your light brighter. Somebody called him a saint among men, a founding father, an icon, a legend. Ordinary people with such extraordinary vision in a country so young, pressed on every single side but not crushed, saying in God, love, and justice we trust. This is what revolution looks like. You gotta get in and stay in this fight. You've got to find a way to get in the way. Speak up, speak out every day. Freedom riders or letter writers, do what you can to shine your light brighter. Make good trouble every chance you get. Eyes on the prize, we're not finished yet. Don't tolerate injustice, my friends. Call them out, but then call them in. When you see something that's not right, not fair, stand up and say, we can
that you are going to get in and stay in this fight.